Hello everyone, I, C. Rajat, welcome you all to EduTap. Today we bring to you another lecture for important MCQs for Company Law SEBI Graded 2020 examination. This is third lecture in the series, and in this lecture we shall be covering chapter number Audit and Auditors part 2. So for this particular chapter we have already made a video, and that was the part 1 of the video. In that we have covered section number 139 and section number 140. Now we shall be covering section 141 to 148 in this video. So let us now start with the video. Important update for you guys. As you all know, due to COVID-19, we all faculty have shifted studio classes from to our homes. So there can be little bit issue in the audio quality. So please bear it with us. We are constantly trying to provide you with the best quality content. So stay home, stay safe, stay online and prepare well. Now some of our previous results. So EduTap has been giving astonishingly best results in the NABARD, RBI and SEBI world. So in NABARD graded 2019 examinations, 25 selections were there from the 41 seats. In NABARD grade B 2019 examination, out of 8 seats, 4 selections were there from EduTap. And in RBI grade B 2019 examination, more than 215 of our students have been called for interviews. 2018 results. So in NABARD graded 2018 examinations, out of the 46 seats, 25 selected aspirants were from EduTap. SEBI graded 2018 examinations, out of the 84 seats, 41 students who got selected were from EduTap. And in RBI grade B 2018 examinations, out of the 127 seats, so 72 selections were there from EduTap. Moving on to the first question. First question is, a person shall not be eligible to be an auditor of a company if he has been convicted by a court of an offence involving fraud and a period of dash years has not elapsed from the date of such conviction. So suppose there is a person, Mr. A, that Mr. A person has done some offence involving fraud. So that person is ineligible to be appointed as an auditor of any company. But for how many years? Not for his whole life. So this restriction or disqualification shall be for a certain number of years. So for how many years this restriction shall be there? So is it 5 years, 7 years, 10 years or 12 years? Very easy question. Anybody who has gone through the disqualifications part must know the answer. I am waiting for your answer, and you are not writing the answer in the comment box. So I want an answer to each and every question. So I shall be waiting for 5 seconds after the particular slide, and then we shall be covering the concept, and then we shall be seeing the answer. In that 5-second duration, you mark the question number, and along with that write the answer. So now we shall be understanding the concept. As you all know, section 141 talks us about the disqualifications of any person who has to be appointed as an auditor. So there is a list of such person that any officer or employee of the company cannot be appointed as the auditor. Why? As you all know, auditor shall be an independent person, and an officer or employee of the company, that person shall not be independent. So that person is ineligible. A person who is a partner of the company, that person is also ineligible. A person or a firm who has business relationship with the company, that is also ineligible. A person whose relative is director or key managerial person in the company, if that person is appointed, that is also an hindrance to the independence principle. So he is also ineligible. A person who is in full-time employment of the company, that is also ineligible. A person or a partner of a firm who is holding appointment of more than 20 companies. As you all know, a firm can do maximum statutory audit of 20 companies. Okay, so if any CA firm has crossed that limit, so that firm is ineligible to be appointed as an auditor of any company. So that is also an disqualification. G part we shall be seeing now. We are covering H part. A person who renders any services referred to in section 144. Now in section 144 there are certain list of services which are barred from the barred for the auditor of the company. That auditor of the company cannot provide these services to the company. So if any person who has provided these services to the company, he cannot be appointed as the auditor of the company. We shall be discussing about section 144 in the coming slides, in the coming questions. And last point is that if any person who is indebted to the company or who has given guarantee to the company or guarantee to the third person about the company, so these persons have an personal interest in the company, so that person is are ineligible. Now G point, a person who has been convicted by a court of a fraud till 10 years from the date of conviction. So once he has been convicted, for the next 10 years, that person shall be ineligible or disqualified to be an auditor of any company. So now you know the answer. So here the answer shall be 10 years. So a person shall not be eligible to be an auditor of a company if he has been convicted by a court of an offence involving fraud and a period of 10 years has not elapsed from the date of such conviction. So answer here is C. Moving on, question number 2. So in case of government company, CAG has the power to conduct supplementary audit. As you all know, in case of government companies, CAG is the ultimate authority who shall be conducting the audits of government companies. So they also have a power to conduct the supplementary audit. So if they are not satisfied with the original audit, they can conduct supplementary audit also. So within how many days of the receipt of the audit report, of the original report, audit report, they can conduct the supplementary audit. So within 30 days, 45 days, 60 days or 90 days. Come on, I want your answers. Supplementary audit is if CAG is not satisfied with the original audit. So they can ask or they can appoint certain other persons also, or they can direct the same persons also to please further investigate into certain matters. So as you all know, in section 143, it is clearly mentioned that within 60 days from the date of receipt of the original audit report, CAG can ask any other person or the same persons to conduct a supplementary audit. Apart from supplementary audit, there is another power that is given to the CAG, that is they can also conduct a test audit. And test audit, as you all know, that is selecting of some random samples from the overall accounts and doing the audit of that particular samples and not the whole accounts. So you know the answer now. The answer is 60 days. So here the answer shall be C. Moving on, question number 3. Following is a list of some services: accounting and bookkeeping services, internal audit services, actuarial services, and investment advisory services. So which of the following services cannot be provided by the auditor of the company? Now we have just discussed the section 144. So these are some of the services. Among them are given in section 144. So which of the following services cannot be provided by the auditor of the company? So 1 and 2, that is accounting and internal audit only. 1, 2 and 3, accounting, internal audit and actuarial services only. 2 and 3, internal audit and actuarial services only, or all 4, that is accounting, bookkeeping, internal audit, actuarial services and investment advisory services. Please type your answer in the comment box. Okay, now going to the explanation. Auditors of a company shall not provide services, these following services, directly or indirectly to the company or to the holding or subsidiary company. So if any person, any auditor provides these services to any company or its holding or its subsidiary company, that person cannot be appointed as an auditor in that company. So what are the services? These are first services, accounting and bookkeeping service. So auditor of the company cannot provide accounting and bookkeeping service to his auditee. Then internal audit. Third is design and implementation of any financial information system. Okay. D is actuarial services. E is investment advisory services, investment banking services and outsourced financial services. And last is management consultancy services basically. So why I have written these services and why only these services? Because if the auditor is providing any of these services, so that is also hindering somewhere the independence principle. As we all know, auditor is an independent authority. So if he is himself involved in accounting and bookkeeping, so how can a person who is himself made the accounts or involved in accounting be checking his own work? So that will hinder the process of independence. So that is why, and these all are the tasks of the management. So all these tasks has to be done by the management, and auditor shall be checking that whether these are performed by the management well or not. So these services are barred, that an auditor cannot provide these services to his auditee. Okay. For any other clients, he can provide the consultancy internal audit services. But for any client who has appointed him as a statutory auditor, to those clients he cannot provide these services. Again, I am repeating the name of the services: accounting and bookkeeping services, internal audit, design and implementation of any financial information system, actuarial services, investment advisory services, investment banking services and outsourced financial services. And last is management consultancy service. Now, many of the students will be saying, sir, how will be remembering these all? Many services are there, we might get confused. So I bring to you a memory technique that is admin, ADMIN. So that might be helpful for you. If you can remember it directly, then do remember it directly. If you are finding difficulty, then you can use this memory technique. So admin, A stands for accounting, bookkeeping and actuarial. So A is for accounting and actuarial services. D stands for design and implementation of any financial information system. M stands for management services. Okay. And IN stands for investment and internal audit. So admin, A, accounting, bookkeeping, D, design implementation of financial information system, M, management consultancy, and IN, internal audit and investment advisory, investment banking services. I hope you can now easily remember this particular list of services. Now you know the answer. The answer is D. All the 4 services that we have listed above, these cannot be provided by the auditor. Question number 4. Who can conduct the audit of a company? Now here we are talking about the company audit, that is statutory audit of the company, that we have talked in chapter number 10, section number 139, 140 and 141 also to some extent. So is it a chartered accountant, a company secretary, advocate, cost management accountant, that is the cost accountant, or any of the above? So who is empowered to conduct the audit of a company? I can assure you that many of the students will be giving correct answer to this question. Very easy question is there. You know the answer? Yes, sir. So let us now see the concept. Section 141 clearly says that a person shall be eligible for an appointment as an auditor of a company only and only if he is a chartered accountant. So the power to conduct the statutory audit of a company is given to only a chartered accountant. Secondly, a firm where majority of the partner practicing in India as chartered accountant or CAs may be appointed by its firm name to be auditor of a company. So suppose there is a multidisciplinary firm. In that particular firm, 4 people, there are total 8 people. Out of them, 4 are chartered accountants, 1 is company secretary, 2 are advocates, and 1 is an MBA finance. There can be such firms. So that firm who is practicing in India, the firm is practicing in India, in which majority partners are chartered accountants. So here majority, more than 50% partners are chartered accountants. So that firm can do the audit of any company. But if the case was different, suppose there are total 8 partners, and out of those 8 partners, only 2 were CAs, and all the 6 were company secretary or cost accountants, then majority of the persons were not chartered accountants. So that firm is not allowed to do audit. Only a firm where majority of the partners are chartered accountants is eligible to conduct the statutory audit. And when a firm is appointed as an auditor of a company, only the partners who are chartered accountants shall be authorized to act and sign on behalf of the firm. So regarding the audit, only the CAs will be conducting the audit and signing on the audit report. Okay, they can use the help of the other partners, but ultimately signing belongs to the chartered accountant only. It cannot be there that a firm is appointed which is a multidisciplinary firm, and in that case, any person, the CS or the cost accountant is signing the audit report. No, only the chartered accountant shall be signing the audit report. Okay, you know the answer now. Who can conduct the audit of a company? Chartered accountant, the CA. Moving on, question number 5. Which companies are required to maintain cost accounts? Section number 148. Okay. So companies with annual turnover of rupees 25 crore or more, companies with annual turnover of rupees 35 crore or more, companies with annual turnover of rupees 45 crore or more, or companies with annual turnover of rupees 50 crore or more. So here we are talking about annual turnover of preceding financial year. Keep it in mind, here we have asked about maintenance of cost accounts. We are not asked about the conducting of cost audit. So here it is which companies are required to maintain cost accounts. The question is not saying which companies are required to conduct cost audit. Okay, do not get confused. There are different limits for cost accounts, there are different limits for cost audit. Type the answer fast. I am waiting for you. Section 148. I have given you the reference also. It might click you now. So section 148. Central government may direct companies having an overall turnover of rupees 35 crore or more from all of its products and services during the immediately preceding financial year. So any company can be asked who is having a turnover of more than 35 crore from all its products and services during the immediately preceding financial year to maintain cost accounts. So here the answer shall be the companies with annual turnover of rupees 35 crore or more. So the answer is B. Moving on, question number 6. Now, a company is dealing in category A products such as pharma and telecom. Category A products, that is the regulated sector products. Okay, here category A means regulated sectors. Then for the company to come under the ambit of conducting a mandatory cost audit, its overall turnover shall be dash crore or more, and aggregated turnover of the individual product or the products or services for which cost records are required to maintain is dash crore or more. So the question is simply asking that when we are talking about regulated sector, you do not go through the category A product. Category A, I have defined it. Okay. So the government has only discussed about regulated and unregulated sectors. They are not saying about category A or category B. So just remember it is regulated sectors. For your easiness and convenience, I have told it as category A. So in category A, we have discussed about regulated sectors. Pharma and telecom are regulated sectors. Then, if the company is liable to conduct the cost audit in case of regulated sector, then we shall be checking the overall turnover also and the turnover of the products and services for which the cost records are maintained. We have to check both the turnovers, the overall turnover of the company also and the turnover of the product and services for which the cost accounts are maintained. So the overall turnover shall be what? Is it 50, 100, 100 or 50? And the turnover regarding the particular products for which cost accounts are maintained. So that shall be 25, 50, 25 or 50. So which limits are to be checked? You have to see from both the options. In the overall turnover, the first one, and in the turnover related to certain products, the second one. This is indeed a very tricky question because many of the students do not remember it, I can assure you, and many of the students will be answering it wrong. So let us now see the answer. So as you all know, central government is the authority to empower any company or ask the company to maintain the cost accounts and conduct the cost audit. So for category A companies, that is regulated sectors. Okay. So we have given the list of regulated sectors, that is telecom, pharma, petroleum, fertilizers, sugar. And in category B, we've talked about machineries, turbojets, coffee, tea, steel, minerals, tanks, radars, papers, tires, glass, arms and ammunition. So these are non-regulated sectors. So for category A, that is for regulated sector, the overall annual turnover of the company that is to be checked is rupees 50 crore. That is overall annual turnover. But aggregate turnover of the product and services for which cost records are maintained, that is 25 crores. And in case of category B company, that is non-regulated sectors, we have to check overall turnover, that is 100 crores, and aggregate turnover we have to check, that is 35 crores. So as you can see that there is more strictness for the regulated sectors, since the turnover limit that we have to check there is comparatively lower. So here the answer shall be 50 crore and 25 crore, since we are talking about regulated sector that are, because the question was talking about pharma and telecom. So the answer here shall be A, 50, 25. Moving on, question number 7. Which of the following are disqualified to be appointed as the auditor of a company? So officer or employee of the company, any body corporate, a person who is a partner or employee of the officer of the company, or all of the above. So this is also we have studied somewhere, where in the previous slides also only we have studied here. In that slide we have seen the disqualifications. So now you might know the answer. Please give the answer fast. I am waiting for 2 minutes so that I can receive your answers in the comment section. Okay. So section 141, as we have discussed, that talked about the disqualification. So here it was clearly mentioned that an employee of the company cannot conduct the audit. A person who is an officer of the company or a partner of an officer of a company, that cannot conduct an audit. And a body corporate shall also be ineligible to conduct the audit. Why a body corporate is ineligible to conduct an audit? Since we all know that the auditors, the chartered accountants, can incorporate a CA firm. They cannot incorporate a body corporate for the purpose of audits. Okay, so the restriction is not on the company that directly, we have to see the restrictions as set up by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India also. So there it was clearly mentioned that any body corporate cannot be formed by the chartered accountants to conduct their audit services. So here the answer shall be all of the above. So officer of the company, employee of the company, a person who is a partner or employee of the officer of a company, or any body corporate, they are ineligible or disqualified to be appointed as the auditor of the company. Moving to the last question for the day, an auditor who has resigned. Here keep it in mind that the auditor has resigned on his own. Okay, so that auditor shall file a statement within dash days of his resignation to ROC. So first tell me that the statement shall be in form number dash. So in the, I'm not discussing about that form number here, since we have talked about the form number in the previous video. There we have discussed for ADT 1, ADT 2, ADT 3, ADT 4. So ADT 1 was for notice for appointment of auditor. So which form shall be filed here in case of resignation of auditor? So please do type that answer in the comment box first, because here the question is different. I just want to know that if you have revised the previous video or not. So an auditor who has resigned, he has deliberately resigned. The company has not removed him. He has resigned with his own wish. So that statement shall be filed with the ROC within dash days of his resignation. Within 10 days, 15 days, 30 days or 45 days. You know, in case of government companies and non-government companies, both the companies basically, so the auditor who has resigned from the company within 30 days from the date of resignation, a statement shall be filed to the registrar of companies in form number ADT 3. You got the answer? ADT 3 was the form number. And in case of government companies, he need to file a statement to the CAG also. Okay? To the Comptroller Auditor General of India also, he need to file a statement, because they are the ultimate authority for that. And that statement shall also be filed within 30 days of the date of resignation. Okay, so here the important date is, you have to see 30 days. So now you know the answer here also. It is C, 30 days. So simple questions for you guys. These are the questions expected in the examinations. Prepare well for the examination. Do revise this series again and again. We shall be bringing to you more such important questions, important lectures. And I was requesting for something from the last two videos, that if you are finding any particular topic difficult in the company law, please do tell us, please do write in the comment section, so that we can make a separate video for that. So I hope you will understand my wording, and you shall be writing it in the comment box if you are finding any topic difficult, so that I can make a separate video for you guys. Okay, so please do comment how many marks you were able to score from these 8 questions. So I shall be assuring that many of my students will be scoring more than 7 marks. Okay, so if you are scoring less than 7, so you can feel the difference. So a lot of students are preparing for the examination since the lockdown is going on, and many students have purchased our courses also. So a lot of students are there, and there's a lot of competition also. So your preparation shall be at peak with them. So do prepare well. I wish you all the best for the examination. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.